The question that changed everything. The room was silent. Only the soft hum of alien machines could be heard. Jake stood in front of her. Zeri. She was tall, slim, with pale blue skin and silver eyes. Her hair floated like it had no weight. She was not human. But in that moment, Jake didn't care. He looked at her and asked, slowly, carefully, like every word mattered, "Do you love me?" Zeri didn't move. She didn't blink. Her silver eyes stared at him, wide and full of fear. She looked like someone who had just heard something forbidden, something dangerous. The world around them seemed to stop. A few weeks earlier, Jake was a soldier. He had come to the planet Thalari with a team of humans. The mission was to study the land, talk to the native people, and avoid war. But things didn't go as planned. The Thalari people were cold and silent. They didn't speak much. They didn't show emotions. They watched the humans from a distance, like shadows. One day, while Jake was scouting alone, a small drone fell from the sky. It was broken, sparking, and falling fast. It was heading straight toward someone. That someone was Kari. She didn't move. She just stared at the sky as the metal came crashing down. Jake ran. He didn't think. He just moved. He jumped and pushed her out of the way. The drone exploded behind them. Smoke filled the air. His arm was bleeding. But Zeri was safe. For a moment, she just looked at him. No thank you. No words. Nothing. Then, finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft, like wind in a cave. "Why did you help me?" Jake blinked. "You were going to die." She tilted her head. "So?" Jake laughed, even though it hurt. "That's not how humans think." The bond begins. After that, things change. Zeri started showing up more often. She didn't speak much, but she listened. She watched Jake as he cleaned his gear, ate his food, even when he talked to himself. She asked questions, strange ones. What is smiling? Why do humans touch hands? What does missing someone feel like? Jake answered them all, even if he didn't understand why she was asking. He showed her a picture of his little sister back on Earth. He told her how she used to sing in the rain, how she died during a war, how he still missed her every day. Zeri listened, her silver eyes focused. She didn't blink much. She never showed much emotion, but something in her eyes had changed. The forbidden feeling. One night, they sat by a glowing lake. The water shimmered with light from the twin moons. Jake handed her a small candy bar. "Try this," he said. "It's chocolate." She smelled it first, then took a tiny bite. Her eyes went wide. "This is," she paused, "pleasure." Jake smiled. "Yeah, that's one word for it." She looked down at the candy, then at him. "My people do not allow pleasure," she said. "Not love, not closeness." Jake frowned. "Why?" "Because feelings make you weak," she said. "Feelings break control." Jake shook his head. "Feelings make you human." She didn't reply. Back to the present. Now here they were, alone in a quiet room. Zeri stood still, her heart racing in a way she didn't understand. And Jake had just asked the one question she feared the most. "Do you love me?" She remembered every moment. His laugh, his pain, the warmth of his hand when he brushed dust off her shoulder, the way her chest felt heavy whenever he walked away. But this word, love, it was dangerous. If her people found out, they would erase her memories, take her away. Maybe worse. She wanted to speak. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Jake looked into her eyes. "It's okay if you don't. I just needed to know." She shook her head slowly. It wasn't no. It wasn't yes. It was something in between. And then, without a word, she turned and walked away. Jake stood alone in the silence. But he wasn't angry. He smiled. Because in her silence, in her eyes, he saw the answer. And he knew this was only the beginning. The alien who feared emotions, Zeri didn't sleep that night. She sat alone in her silver room, staring at the wall, but her mind was full of Jake, his voice, his eyes, his question, "Do you love me?" The words echoed inside her like thunder in a cave. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from something far more dangerous, feeling. A world without emotion. Zeri's home was nothing like Earth. On the outside, it was beautiful, floating towers, glowing plants, and a sky that changed colors with each hour. But inside, it was cold, lifeless. Her people, the Villari, believed that emotion was the first crack in a perfect world. Love, fear, anger, these were seen as diseases. From the moment they were born, Villari children were trained to suppress their feelings. There were no hugs, no music, no stories of love or loss, only logic, silence, and control. Every week, young Villari had to sit in the stillness room, where a voice would repeat, "Emotion is chaos. Emotion is failure. Emotion is death." Zeri had always obeyed, until she met him, the human who broke the rules. Jake was different from anything she had ever known. He laughed loudly. He touched people. He told stories that made her heart ache in ways she had never felt before. At first, she watched him like a curious child, but soon she began to feel. It started with small things. A smile when he joked. A sharp breath when he got hurt. A strange warmth in her chest when he said her name. Zeri didn't know the word for it at the time, but now she did. Emotion. And it scared her more than anything. The elders are watching. After she walked away from Jake, she went straight to the observation tower, a tall, silent place where her people gathered information from the entire planet. There she saw a red light blinking next to her name. Someone had seen her with the human. Someone had reported her. A voice behind her spoke, flat and cold. "Sorry, come with us." She turned and saw two elder watchers. They wore silver masks, and their eyes glowed green. "You have spent too much time near the human. Your emotional levels are unstable," one said. "I am in control," she replied, quickly. "We will decide that," the other said, testing her heart. They took her to the Chamber of Purity, a round, empty room with soft lights and no doors. A voice filled the air, coming from all directions. "Zeri of Villari, you are showing signs of emotional contact. Do you deny this?" She stood in the center, heart racing. "Yes, I deny it." "Then prove it." Suddenly, the walls lit up. A memory played in the air, her and Jake, sitting near the glowing lake. She was smiling, laughing. Another memory, Jake handing her the candy, her lips moving. "This is pleasure." Her lie was exposed. "Your emotions are unstable," the voice said again. "We will begin memory cleansing." Her breath caught. No, wait. But the light around her turned white. The cleansing had begun. The escape. Then something inside her snapped. Not fear, not panic. Something deeper. She didn't want to forget him. Not his voice. Not his stories. Not his kindness. She screamed, a sharp sound that echoed through the chamber. The light flickered. Systems crashed. No one had ever resisted before. No one had ever screamed. Zeri's scream was the first act of rebellion in generations. She ran. Meanwhile, Jake waits. Back at the human base, Jake was staring out across the dry hills of Villari. Zeri hadn't come back. He had replayed the moment 100 times in his mind. Her silence after his question. Her face full of fear. Then, she left. Maybe he had gone too far. Maybe love was too dangerous for her kind. Maybe she would never come back. But still, he waited. He didn't know that Zeri was fighting for him. The alien who feared love. Zeri hid in the caves outside the city. Her head was pounding, her body shaking. She had never run from her people before. She had never disobeyed. She stared at her hands, They looked the same, but she didn't feel the same. Jake had done something to her, not with weapons, not with power, with kindness, with words, with love. She picked up a small stone and carved a single word into the wall of the cave. Feel. She touched the word gently, then whispered something for the first time. I'm not afraid of love anymore. But even as she said it, she knew. Her people would come for her. And if they caught her, they would erase her completely. She had one choice now. Find Jake, or be lost forever. Secrets under the stars. The stars were different on this part of the Thalari. They moved slowly, like they were alive. A soft purple glow shimmered in the sky, lighting up the dry hills and the smooth silver rocks. Jake sat on one of those rocks, waiting. He had been waiting every night since Tari disappeared. His team had given up. The commanders had told him to forget about her. But he couldn't. Because no mission, no order, no planet meant more to him than that moment when Zari almost touched his hand, then pulled back. The sound of footsteps. Tonight was colder than usual. Jake pulled his jacket tighter and looked up at the twin moons. One was full, the other half broken like a cracked eye in the sky. He heard something behind him. Soft footsteps on stone. He turned, and there she was. Zari stood at the edge of the hill, her silver eyes wide, glowing in the moonlight. She looked tired, bruised. Her dress was torn at the side. But to Jake, she looked perfect. He stood up fast. Zari. She didn't speak. She just walked toward him, slow, unsure, like she didn't believe he was real. When she finally stood in front of him, Jake didn't ask any questions. Not yet. He simply said, "You came back." She nodded. Under the open sky, they sat near the fire Jake had made. It was small, flickering. Zari watched it like it was something holy. "My people fear fire," she said quietly. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "It's alive. It dances. It burns, just like emotions." Jake smiled. "That's why I like it." There was a long pause. Then she looked at him, really looked. "I broke the rules," she whispered. "I figured. They tried to erase my memories of you." Jake's body went still. "And I didn't let them." He exhaled, deeply. "Why?" She stared into the flames, then said something she had never told anyone, not even herself. "Because I remember how you laugh when you think nobody's listening. I remember how your eyes change when you talk about your sister. I remember how I felt when you almost touched my hand." Jake looked at her, his voice low. "And how did you feel?" Zari didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and touched his hand. For the first time. The first touch, it was a small touch, gentle, barely there. But for Zari, it was everything. Her people didn't touch unless it was for control, for orders, for science. Touch meant weakness. But here, under the stars, it felt warm, safe, real. Jake didn't move. He let her lead. "Do humans always feel so much?" she asked. He nodded. "We feel everything, even when we don't want to. Isn't it painful?" "Yeah, but it's also what makes us alive." She looked down at their hands. "Then maybe I want to feel alive too." Secrets shared in the dark. They talked for hours. Zari told him how her name wasn't her real name. It was a number before, Unit 5AX, until she chose Kari for herself after meeting Jake. Jake told her how he never knew his father, how his mother raised him in a broken city on Earth, how he used to dream about flying to other stars. But he never expected to find someone like her. "I thought aliens would be cold, strange, dangerous," he said. "And I thought humans were monsters," she replied. They both laughed. Then Zari became quiet. "There's something else you should know," she said. "A secret." Jake leaned closer. "Tell me." "My people are watching us, even now. If I stay with you, they will send hunters. Then we run, Jake said, without thinking. Zeri shook her head. There is nowhere to run on Velari. Not for someone like me. Jake looked at her seriously. Then we make a new place, one where feeling isn't a crime. She looked up at the stars. That place doesn't exist. Then we'll build it. The unspoken fear. As the night deepened, the stars began to fade into early dawn. Jake leaned back, resting on the rock. Zari did the same, her shoulder brushing his. This time, she didn't pull away. But a question was burning in her mind. "Why do you love me?" she asked quietly. Jake looked at her, surprised. "I never said I love you." She turned to him, her heart beating faster. "Then why did you ask me?" Jake smiled. "Because I wanted to know if I was the only one falling." She blinked slowly. Falling in love. She looked up at the sky again. "I don't know what love feels like," she whispered. "But when you're not near, something hurts. When I see your face, it stops hurting." Jake didn't speak. He just gently rested his hand on top of hers. The whisper in the wind. As the sun began to rise, the soft wind of Velari moved through the hills. Zeri closed her eyes. "I'm scared," she said. "Of what?" "That they will find us. That I'll lose this feeling. That I'll forget you." Jake leaned close. "You won't. I promise." Then he said the words again, the ones that started it all. "Do you love me?" This time, she didn't freeze, but she also didn't answer. Not yet. She turned her head and whispered something else. "Ask me again, when the stars return." The forbidden word. The moment Zeri opened her eyes, she knew something was wrong. The air was too still. The birds of Velari were silent. Even the wind that usually danced over the hills had vanished. Jake was still asleep beside her. His chest rose and fell slowly. He looked peaceful. But Zeri felt it. The watchers were near. Her people had found them. The eyes in the dark. She stood quietly and walked a few steps away, scanning the horizon. Nothing. Then, for a second, she saw them. 3 silver figures, standing far off, half hidden behind glowing trees. Their eyes were green, their bodies tall and thin like glass statues. They didn't move. They just watched. The elders had sent the collectors. And the collectors never spoke. They only took. Zeri's heart pounded. The warning. She ran back and shook Jake awake. "Jake, we have to go." He blinked. "What? What's wrong?" "They're here. My people. They know." Jake sat up fast, grabbing his gear. "We can run to the west side. There's a ridge. Maybe." "No," Zeri said. "We can't outrun them. We have to hide." They ran into the canyon behind the hill. The rocks were sharp and the light was fading, but they kept moving. Deeper and deeper, until even the sky was gone. They stopped in a dark cave. Their breath echoed off the stone. Jake turned to her. "What do they want?" "To erase me," she said simply. "To remove the part of me that remembers you." Jake's eyes darkened. "They'll have to go through me first." Zeri looked at him. "No, Jake. If they hurt you, I don't think I could survive that." The forbidden word. Jake sat down beside her on a cold rock. "You never answered my question," he said softly. She didn't pretend to misunderstand. "I wanted to," she whispered. "But saying it, that word, it's forbidden." Jake waited. Then Zeri turned her face toward him. Her voice was shaking. "I once saw a child in my city taken away. She hugged her brother in public. That was her crime." Jake's mouth opened slightly. "She hugged him." "She never came back," Zeri said. No one spoke her name again. She looked down at her hands. "I was afraid the same would happen to me." Jake nodded slowly. "But you still came back to me." "Yes." He looked into her glowing eyes. "Then maybe it's time to stop being afraid." There was silence between them. Then Zeri leaned forward, her lips trembling. She whispered the word her world feared most. Love. The cave seemed to hold its breath. I love you, she said, like it was a secret spell. A part of me always did. I just didn't know what it was. Jake smiled. His voice broke slightly. I love you too, Terry. She smiled for the first time. A real smile, soft and broken, and full of something beautiful. But their moment didn't last. A blast shook the cave walls. The capture. Dust fell from the ceiling. The rocks cracked. A flash of green light burned outside the cave. Jake grabbed Xari's hand. They're here. They ran out, but the collectors were already there. 3 of them. Silent. Cold. Waiting. One lifted a hand. A pulse of green energy hit Jake in the chest. He flew back, hit the ground hard. Jake. Xari screamed, running to him. He groaned. He was alive, but dazed. The tallest collector stepped forward and held up a small silver sphere. Xari froze. It was a mind cleanser, a device that would wipe everything, her memories, her feelings, her name. It would make her Velari again. Empty. The plea. Don't do this, she said, her voice shaking. Please. One of the collectors finally spoke, in a flat voice. You have broken the prime code. Emotional contamination confirmed. Reprogramming is mandatory. I don't want to be reprogrammed. Desire is irrelevant. Jake coughed and stood, still weak, but burning with anger. You don't get to take her. The collector aimed its sphere at him. Xari stepped in front of Jake. If you erase me, you'll never erase him. I'll find him again. I'll feel it again. That is not possible, the collector said. Xari stepped closer, eyes burning. I said the forbidden word. I said love. The collectors froze. All 3. That word was not meant to be spoken aloud. I feel it, Xari said. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. The stand. Jake looked at her, proud and in awe. The collectors began to back away. One spoke again. You are now classified as exiled. You may not return. You are cut from the Velari. Xari held her head high. Then I'll make a new home. With him. The collectors vanished in a beam of light, leaving only the silver sphere behind. Jake picked it up slowly. Are you okay? Xari nodded. Her hands were still shaking, her eyes wet with tears. But she was free. I broke the law, she whispered. Jake smiled. You also broke their system. Alone together. That night, they didn't sleep. They watched the stars return. The sky shimmered above them, open and endless. Xari curled beside Jake, her head on his chest. Do you think love will be enough? She asked. Jake held her hand tightly. It has to be. She smiled. Then ask me again. He looked at her. Do you love me? This time, she didn't whisper. Yes, she said proudly. And I always will. Memory or love. The sun rose slowly over the hills of Velari. For the first time in her life, Xari didn't feel afraid of the light. She sat beside Jake, hand in hand, eyes full of peace. But peace never lasts long on a world where love is a crime. The warning message. A loud beep echoed from Jake's comlink. He tapped it. A message played, static-filled and shaky. Jake, this is Captain Rowe. Come in. We've detected high-energy signals near your location. Velari tech, possibly weapons grade. Orders are clear. Return to base immediately. The message cut off. Jake frowned. They're still watching us. Xari looked at the horizon. A soft green glow flickered in the far clouds. Not natural. Not safe. They're not done, she whispered. The collectors didn't erase me, so now they'll try something worse. Jake looked at her, confused. Worse than memory erasure. Xari nodded. Her voice cracked. Yes. They can erase you. From my mind. They can make me forget you ever existed. The ancient program, Zeri explained as they walked through the canyons, trying to stay hidden. There was an old system deep inside the Lari's core network, created long ago when the first humans were spotted. A last resort tool called Mind Shadow. It didn't just wipe memories. It replaced them. They use it when someone becomes too attached to an outsider, Zeri said. They rewrite the person's mind, insert fake memories, and seal off the real ones behind paintballs. Jake stopped walking. So even if you see me, you won't know me. She nodded slowly. Jake's face went pale. How do we stop it? We can't, she said, unless we find the core node before they activate it. Jake looked around. Where is it? Zeri hesitated. Inside the city I escaped from. Jake nodded, without fear. Then we go back. The City of Silence. It was called Virelin, the capital of the Lari. A city of glass towers, glowing roads, and no voices. Even the children there walked in silence. Jake had never been inside. Zeri led him through a hidden tunnel beneath the outer wall. It smelled of cold metal and old secrets. They'd moved fast. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every camera, a pair of eyes. At the heart of the city stood the core tower. Tall, black, humming softly like a heartbeat. The core node is inside, Zeri said. We have to reach the control floor. Jake looked up. And how do we do that without getting caught? Zeri glanced at him with a small smile. The Lari don't expect rebels to return home. The last goodbye. They made it to the 10th floor before the alarms began. Red lights, echoing sirens, a cold voice through the walls. Emotional criminal detected. Initiating Mind Shadow sequence. Lockdown in process. Zeri grabbed Jake's hand. We're out of time. They ran, door after door, hallway after hallway, until they reached a giant room filled with screens and white light. The core node pulsed in the center, a silver orb floating in midair. Wires ran from it like roots. A thin console hovered below it. Zeri stepped forward. Her hands moved quickly across the controls. Jake watched the door. Then suddenly, a sharp noise behind them. Two collectors entered. Jake pulled his blaster. Stay back. One of the collectors pointed at Zeri. Human infection confirmed. Final memory wipe in progress. Zeri gasped. It started. Losing him. A sound hit her, like wind screaming inside her mind. She fell to her knees. Jake rushed to her. Zeri? She was shaking, eyes wide, pupils flickering like static. She touched her head, breathing fast. I can't remember your face, she said, panicking. I know you, but it's fading. Jake grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Her fingers brushed his cheek. Your voice. I remember that. The collectors moved closer. Jake fired. One fell. The other kept coming. Jake. Zeri cried out. They're erasing everything. Jake looked at the orb. How do I stop it? Just break it, she shouted. Jake turned and shot the core node. The orb sparked, cracked, then exploded in a flash of white light. The stillness. Everything went quiet. The lights in the room went dark. The walls turned black. The remaining collector froze, then dropped. Jake turned to Zeri. She wasn't moving. Zeri, he whispered, kneeling beside her. Her eyes were open, but blank, like a window with no view. He shook her gently. Zeri, talk to me, please. Nothing. He touched her hand, still warm, but she didn't respond. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. Don't do this, he said, voice cracking. You fought so hard. Please don't leave me now. Still, she said nothing. The spark inside. Then a small breath. A blink. She whispered, barely audible. Jake. He froze. Yes, I'm here. I'm right here. Her eyes slowly focused. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I thought I lost you," she said. Jake laughed, crying. "You scared the hell out of me." She held his hand to her chest. "I remembered. Even when they tried to steal you, I still remembered." Jake leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. "Because love isn't just memory," he said. "It's stronger than that. A new beginning." They walked out of the core tower as the city lights flickered. The mind shadow system was gone, broken, and with it, Valeri's control over the heart. For the first time in generations, no one was watching. No one was listening. The stars above were real. The wind was soft again. Zeri looked at Jake. "I want to go where no one tells me who to be." He smiled. "Then come with me. To Earth, to wherever we want." And as the sun began to rise behind them, Harry whispered, "I'll never forget this. The choice that hurt." The gates of Valeri stood tall behind them, silent, broken, and no longer watching. Zeri had destroyed the core node. She had saved her memories. She had saved her heart. But now, a new threat was rising. The humans had sent a ship, and it wasn't alone. The sky turns red. Jake looked up, his face tensed. "That's not just a transport. That's a battle cruiser." Zeri squinted at the silver dot in the sky. It moved fast, cutting through the clouds like a blade. Lights blinked on its side. Red. Red was never good. A second ship followed, smaller, darker, shaped like an arrow. Jake tapped his comm. "Command, this is Corporal Jake Reeves. What's going on?" Static. Then a voice came through. Cold, sharp. "Corporal Reeves, you are ordered to stand down and return to command. The alien subject is considered a threat." Jake's heart dropped. "What are they talking about?" Zeri asked, her voice soft. He turned to her slowly. They think you're dangerous now, because you broke their systems." Zeri took a step back. "Are they going to attack?" Jake didn't answer, because he didn't know. Divided lines. Back at the temporary human base, soldiers were moving fast. "Guns charge," orders shouted. Zeri stood beside Jake as they reached the checkpoint. 2 soldiers pointed rifles at her. Jake stepped in front. "Stand down. She's not the enemy." "Then what is she?" One of them asked. "She hacked an alien mainframe and vanished for 3 weeks. She saved us," Jake snapped. "She risked everything for peace." Command disagrees. That word, command, hung in the air like poison. Zeri looked at Jake. "Maybe I should go." "No," he said. "You stay with me." But as they walked deeper into the base, something felt wrong. Everyone looked at her like she was a bomb ready to explode. The offer. Later that night, Zeri was taken into a room. Not a cell, but not free either. Inside stood a human officer. Her name was Commander Race. Her face was sharp, her voice sharper. "You've caused quite a wave," she said, circling Zeri. "Even Earth knows your name now." Zeri said nothing. Commander Rice continued. "You helped one of our own. That counts for something." Then she slid a device across the table. "This is a relocation ship. It will send you to a hidden human station, far from Valeri, far from anyone who might see you as a threat." Zeri looked at her, and Jake. Rice didn't blink. "He'll be reassigned. Earth Command thinks he's compromised." Zeri froze. "Compromised?" "Yes," Race said, emotionally. "By you. The choice." That night, Hexari and Jake sat under the stars again, the same stars that once made her feel safe. Now, they looked distant, cold. Jake held her hand, but she was quiet. "They want to send me away," she said. He nodded. "I know. They want to send you somewhere else too." "I know." A long silence passed between them. "Jake," she whispered, "if I leave, they won't hurt you." He looked at her, shocked. "No, Don't even think about that. They said I could live, just far away, quiet, alone, and be a ghost. Jake asked, "Is that living?" Zeri looked down. "Maybe it's better than putting you in danger." Jake stood up, angry now. "Don't do that. Don't protect me by breaking us." She stood too, her voice cracked. "Then what do we do? Fight your people. Fight mine. Where do we go, Jake?" He didn't answer, because he didn't know. The doors. 2 ships were ready. One, a quiet human transport waiting to take Sari to a far-off station, alone. The other, Jake's ship, ready to leave with the team and return to Earth. Zeri stood between the 2 ramps. The air was still. Everyone was watching. She had seconds to decide. One door meant safety. The other meant uncertainty, danger, but love. Jake didn't beg. He didn't call out. He just stood by his ship, staring at her, silent, waiting. Zeri closed her eyes. She saw the fire, the laughter, the pain, the joy. She saw him. Then she opened her eyes and walked toward the twist. Suddenly, sirens, red lights. Again, a voice screamed over the base comms. "Velari strike drones incoming." Unknown pattern. Defenses compromised. Everyone ran. The sky turned bright with flashing blue streaks. Explosions rocked the ground. Jake grabbed Zeri's hand and pulled her behind a barrier. "This isn't about you anymore," he said. "They're starting a war." Zeri looked at the sky. Her people had sent drones. No, not her people. Not all of them. Just the ones who still feared what she represented. Change. Love. Emotion. Freedom. The real choice. After the attack stopped, smoke covered the base. Casualties. Damage. Confusion. But in the middle of it all, Jake and Zeri stood. Alive. Commander Rice approached, face pale. "We've changed our orders," she said. "She saved 3 of our men during the drone strike. We're offering her protected passage. With you." Jake looked at Tari. Zeri looked at him. "You don't have to choose alone anymore," he said. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "No," she whispered. "I choose with you now." And they walked toward the same ship. Together. "Do you love me?" The stars above Earth looked different than the ones on Velari. They were softer, slower, warmer. Zeri stood on a grassy hill under an Earth sky. The wind was light. The trees swayed. Somewhere far off, water moved in a river she hadn't learned the name of yet. It had been 2 months since she arrived on Earth with Jake. 2 months since they escaped a war. 2 months since she chose love over safety. But tonight, her heart felt unsure. Because Jake hadn't asked the question again. A new world. A quiet distance. Earth was strange. People here smiled easily. Children ran freely. Music played from open windows. The world felt loud, alive, and full of feeling. At first, Zeri couldn't stop watching everything. She learned to eat ice cream. She danced barefoot in rain. She held Jake's hand in public. A small thing, but to her, it felt like flying. But something had changed. Jake was quieter these days. He spent hours talking to people from command. He was helping Earth understand the Velari. He was being the hero again. And slowly, he was pulling away. Not in anger. Not in hate. But like a tide slipping back into the sea. The night of the storm. One evening, a soft storm rolled over the sky. Zeri sat on the small balcony of their safe house. She wore one of Jake's jackets, too big on her arms. She liked how it smelled like him. Jake came out with 2 mugs of tea. "Still love storms?" he asked. She nodded. "They sound like home." He sat beside her. They watched lightning crack across the clouds in silence. Then she spoke. "Jake, do you remember the question you asked me the night I froze?" He looked at her. I remember everything about that night. I didn't answer right away. I know. She turned to face him. So why haven't you asked again? Jake's breath caught. He put down the mug. I guess I didn't need to, he said. You already said you loved me. Zeri nodded slowly. But I want to say it again, she whispered. Because this time, I know what it means. Back to the beginning. Jake stood up and held out his hand. Come with me. Zeri took it, confused but curious. They walked outside, through the wet grass, until they reached a small tree near the hill. There in the dirt, Jake had drawn a circle. Inside it were two symbols, one human, one Villari. Zeri looked at him. What is this? Jake smiled gently. Our beginning. Our own world. Just for us. He stepped inside the circle. Then he looked at her, his voice low and steady. Do you love me? Zeri felt her heart rise into her throat. But this time, there was no fear. She stepped into the circle. I love you, she said clearly. And I will say it every day until I forget how to speak. The future starts here. They sat under the tree together, in the circle of their own making. Zeri leaned into him, and Jake wrapped his arms around her. You still scare me, she whispered. Jake laughed softly. Why? Because every time I look at you, I want more days, more time, more moments. He kissed her forehead. Then let's make all of them count. A message sent across the stars. The next day, Zeri stood in front of a screen at Earth Central Command. A message was being sent to Villari. It was not a threat, not a warning. It was a memory, a small video of Zeri and Jake laughing, dancing in the rain, holding hands near the glowing lake long ago. It was her way of saying, we are not enemies. We are not machines. We are hearts. And hearts are made to feel. No reply came that day. But far away, on the edge of Villari space, a single child drew a heart in the sand and smiled. The message had been heard. The promise. That night, Jake and Zeri sat under the stars again, like the very first night. Only now, there were no drones, no fear, no rules. Just two people. One human, one alien, and the feeling that started everything. Jake looked at her. So what now? Zeri smiled. Now, we live. We build. We show them what love really means. He leaned closer. Together. Always. Full circle. The wind whispered through the trees. The earth was quiet. And once again, Jake asked, Do you love me? Zeri didn't freeze this time. She didn't whisper. She smiled wide and said it proudly, like the stars themselves were listening. Yes, I love you. From the day you asked, until the end of all days.